put some power into it.
Good evening and welcome to the June 15th, 2017 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the town of Falmouth. My name's Paul Murphy. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight, and I'm going to introduce the board. To my left, my far left is Bob Dugan. He is an associate member sitting on tonight's hearings. To my immediate left is Ed Van Kuren. He's a regular voting member of the Board of Appeals. And to my right is Jerry Patimus. Jerry is an associate member of the Board of Appeals. And Sari Budrow is our zoning administrator, and Drade Guy Shucker is our recording secretary.
And here she
And,
is.
hi, Drade. All hearings are advertised and held in accordance with the open meeting law, and out of courtesy, if everyone could silence their cell phones, that would be helpful. We've got two continuations tonight and 3 regular hearings. We limit public comment to 2 minutes and presentations for about 15 minutes. And that's pretty much about it. Did I cover the bases?
And if they have questions, they go up to the lectern.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please go up to the podium and
When you're recognized.
be recognized that way. I think we're ready to roll. So for our first continuation tonight, I think Sari has an announcement.
The first one is CLSV.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
Okay, CLSV, okay. All right.
And that has been read into the record, so the acting clerk will read the referrals. And Laura and Mr. McGrath are here.
So referrals on the engineering, standard referral, also adding that we do not recommend the use of trench drains. They tend to close easily. No referral from planning, no referral from assessors, no referral from fire department,
No comments.
no comments. One letter of support.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mike McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor. And I've been working out at the Valleymead subdivision since 1972. So in any case, my current client is CLSV Associates Limited Partnership, and I filed a request to basically modify 2 variances. The site is lot 19 and 20 on Hill and Plain Road. And this is a plan that I'll be happy to share with you. But Moraine Ridge Road comes off of Hill and Plain Road about 2,000 feet in from Sam Turner Road, and it's never been built. We applied, and it has been officially abandoned, and the plan has been recorded at the registry. There was, at that point in time, that lot 20A was short 0.25 feet, I believe. There's another variance that covered most of the subdivision, and it was because there was a foreclosure in the 90s, and then there had been some rezoning, and the end result was the roads were built. There were a series of lots that had already been conveyed. The utilities were all in, and so the owners applied for variance, basically saying that it was the same density as a cluster subdivision, and there was a whole series of vegetation and wildlife conservancy areas set aside, as well as some open spaces. So when these 2 lots have been for sale since, for 20 years, and they have not been able to get it sold. The driveway's in excess of 600 feet to to get to the point. The other point was, at the time this project was first approved, there was nothing but vacant lands. There were several strips, probably 6 different strips that ran between here and 151. If you look at the original subdivision plan, there was a road extension at this end. There was also road extension over closer to 28. These were laid out for future extensions. And what's happened is there's now a golf course that was under Falmouth Golf that basically they purchased all the land, including some land from the town, and there's no longer any need to have this road extended, so it's been officially abandoned. So it's very expensive to build a road, and so at one point when we applied for the variance, we showed this home site up in here. In any case, we have agreed, the CLSV does have a purchaser who signed a purchase and sales to buy this the first time in, like I said, over 20 years worth of effort. He has one condition, is that he does not want to share the driveway with the future house here. I have a relative that shares a driveway, and he's always the first one to go out, so he's always the one that plows the driveway. He's sometimes not happy about that, so in the winter times. So it's caused a little bit of friction at times. But so this purchaser wants to build his house here, and we have shown the driveway. This driveway was staked, the house was staked. I have revised the plan at request of the client, and the revision is dated June 14th, yesterday. And what we've done is added a 25-foot vegetated buffer. And that was to provide a modicum of privacy to the existing house that lies at lot 230. And I have copies of the...
If that's what you sent over, they have them, Michael.
Oh, they don't... Oh.
They have the colored copies.
There you go.
I copied them for them.
All right.
That's what I get paid. Good.
So in any case, that plan has to go to the planning board because we're adjusting some lot lines. It'll be filed as improvement not required plan. So this 25-foot vegetative buffer goes all along this boundary. There is, well, over 20 years ago when they were building Ballymede, there used to be a pole line here. It belonged to the telephone company. And I remember clearly because someone stole all the copper. But the easement is unused, and if you've been to the site, you can hardly see where it used to be. It used to be you could walk up and down this if there was a clearing, but no longer. So in any case, the lot 19A now is 2.72 acres. It's got the required lot width. It has the required frontage. So this lot, in effect, now conforms to zoning. So I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board concerning the application.
All right, let's see, does anyone have any questions? Jerry?
Hill and Plain Road is the road that the driveway will access from?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a private way?
All of Ballymede roads are private ways.
Is that it? All right. Public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Please.
My name is Barry Glasgow. I'm president of the Ballymede Property Owners Association. We submitted a letter in support of the project, and we wholeheartedly endorse the proposal that is before you. We believe that selling this lot is in the benefit of all the homeowners in the community. So we are fully behind and lend our support to the proposal before the zoning board.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this? Sir?
Good evening. My name's David House. This is my wife, Marilyn. We occupy the home right next door. First of all, kind of another matter. We never received notice of this meeting. I don't know if we were supposed to or not, but it seemed like as an abutter, we should have been notified. I know we were for the planning board meeting.
Okay.
But, you know, here we are. We moved into Bailey Mead in 2004. Part of the reason we moved to where we did is because we thought that building site was going to be up at the top. The other side of us is a power easement, so we were going to be pretty isolated and private. It's very nice. There's agreements going back and forth between the BPOA and CLSV that seems like everybody benefits from, except for us. We're taking this on our back. You know, we thought that home site was going to be up at the top. Admittedly, the 25-foot vegetation buffer, which just came to be as of yesterday, is a nice gesture. It's a nice step. But generally, you know, like I said, we thought that house was going to be way back up and not in our sight lines at all. A little upset about that. That said, if the board decides this is a legal lot and the home is within the required setbacks, then we will be gracious neighbors and do what we need to do.
Thank you.
Excuse me, is the property in the house name?
Yes, that's correct.
He is not on the list. Oh, there he is, David House, 204 Hill and Plain Road, East Falmouth. Marilyn and David House.
Right.
So if that's the correct address, it did go out.
Never got to us. We got notified of the planning board meeting, both regular mail and certified.
Well, the assessors certify this to us, and we send it out, and you are on the list.
Okay, well, that's good, but it never got to us.
Thank you. How would the board like to proceed?
Pardon me?
How would the board like to proceed?
Anybody else?
Is there anyone else? Oh, sorry. Attorney Moynihan, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Laura Moynihan, and I represent the applicant as well with Mr. McGrath. Just want to make a couple of comments about the application. Obviously, the developer has tried to appreciate Mr. and Mrs. House's concern by voluntarily offering this 25-foot wooded buffer. That is the standard under the zoning bylaw for open space or cluster plans for a minimum, buffer area around lots. So it's somewhat presumed, I would submit, under the zoning bylaw that that is an adequate vegetated buffer for cluster type plants to buffer houses or cluster subdivisions from other areas. We think that that's going to do a lot to address the concern that they have. Also, I think if you look at the plan, you'll see on the bottom there's a layout of the actual footprint. This is a very modest house, I think. It's 42 by 30 is the footprint with a garage. So it's about a 1,200 square foot footprint, two-story home. For Valleymead, it's very modest. And the garage is on the opposite side, and the driveway's on the opposite side. So the activity, for this house is going to be even further away from Mr. and Mrs. House. So, we tried very carefully to think about that and to appreciate their concern. Having said all of that, I think that it is important to note, and you can see this in the history of the prior variances, that these building envelopes were not put in place for aesthetic reasons. They were designed, and this information is in the original variance, to assure that each lot would be buildable based on the topography and the soil conditions for the lots out here. And Mr. McGrath obviously knows more about this than I. But there are large boulders, there's difficult terrain. So that's why these envelopes were put in place in the first place, so that the developer could assure people when buying that the house could be built on the lot in this particular location, that a septic system could go in based on the topography and the soil conditions that they were aware of. Also, there is no provision in any of the neighborhood covenants that owners have to consent to these changes. And I'm sure the board is aware, you know, from your experience, that if there's going to be a private restriction or a private right in favor of somebody, you're going to hear about it. And there is no private right or private restriction to dictate where things are going to go on a neighboring lot. There's no consent required under the Ballymead covenants or any variance for anybody to have to consent to these changes. And developers change plans all the time, and they have to be able to change plans all the time, especially in a very large subdivision like this. So we think that this change does meet the standards of the bylaw for modification of the variance. We think there's going to be less disturbance to the land overall, which is a benefit to the vegetation and the environment. And it's important also, I think, to note that the shared driveway at the outset was something that the developer proposed. At the time, they thought it would be beneficial. The developer proposed that. So turns out that's not the case, and it hasn't been beneficial, and it's been a detriment to trying to develop and be able to sell this lot. So we think overall, having the house in this location is going to be less intense for this lot, rather than having a lot of disturbance going up through utilities and driveway up to the very back of the lot. There'll be less intense use of the lot overall, and we think that that vegetated buffer will adequately buffer Mr. and Mrs. House from this new very modest size home for Ballymead. So those are my comments.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a question. Does the buffer, I'm assuming, is just flat land? It doesn't, is it existing wooded land? Is it going to be vegetation planted to provide any height? Screening would probably be the better word.
Yeah, it is wooded. Do you want to address that?
So it's not, the land's not being stripped or anything like that?
No.
No, it's all existing naturally wooded vegetated area.
Sir.
My name is Austin Heath, and I live at 5 Paddock Circle in Ballymead. Since 2001, I've been involved with covenants and plans and a bunch of other stuff with Ballymead. And I don't have any problem with this plan at all. However, the last approved plans on file by both the planning board and the ZBA date back to the approvals of the CLSV got. This would change the road layout and a property line. I would hope that you would require the changes that are made to be incorporated in those plans and refiled. As far as I know, it's only 2 pages of the 6 pages that are in book 500, pages 40 to 46. But it's to everybody's benefit to have the plans that are approved and in our covenants to be complete and up to date. When you remove a road, let's remove it for good and get it on the record And that's the only request I have in regard to this, is that that be a requirement, that those pages be redone and refiled. I'm going to make the same request to the planning board.
Yes, I do believe this will go before the planning board, and it's their purview. Laura can speak to that.
Yeah, the plan has to be recorded. It's an A&R plan. The plan, there is a plan on record now for abandonment of Marine Ridge Road because the planning board has already approved the abandonment of Marine Ridge Road. So that plan has been recorded, and this particular plan would have to be recorded as well.
Thank you. Sir?
Let's not get into it.
Through you to Laura, you
No, through the
recorded
chair.
whole set
Austin.
for just one page.
Austin, you do have to go through the chair, and he'll ask Laura.
Through the chair.
Thank you. He'll ask Laura.
To ask Laura, okay.
We would not record the whole set. We would record this plan, there'd be a note on the plan of reference to the old set. So that's how they would be tied together.
Thank you.
I differ and would like to see the whole set recorded. It's not much change. It just simplifies in the future titles, searches, and everything else.
Well, it's not quite that easy because the surveyor has to go up survey, what, 300 lots to?
No.
Rod,
It'd be amended.
I mean Rod, Paul.
It would be an amendment to the existing plan. Don't have to do anything.
All right.
Exchange one
That's-
line
That's a
and
planning board.
erase one road. That's all.
I think we got it. We'll,
Huh?
Refer it to
Thank
the
you.
planning board.
Survey the whole thing, I'd say it's ridiculous, but.
Can't stand it.
Right.
That's okay.
is there anyone else? All right. What would the board like to do? Any?
Motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close.
Jerry and Ed seconded?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a,
Want to discuss it before
do you
you
guys wanna-
make a
no.
determination?
Well, I like the idea they did the 25-foot buffer.
yeah,
I think it's reasonable, and it gives you the extra screening space, and they're leaving it natural vegetation.
yeah.
It makes sense on the saleability for direct access versus sharing the driveways.
Definitely. Yeah, shared driveways.
Yeah, I had a shared driveway,
Yeah.
not the one. I mean, I think this is a good plan. The moving of the house is the moving of the house. People need to do due diligence, you know. I can appreciate the circumstances. I'd also think that the filing of the amendment to the deed should be passed on to the planning board. I'm not sure if we need to amend the deed as much as Mr. Heath has suggested.
That's, I think Laura and the planning board probably knows best, but in my experience, everything would have to be resurveyed to refile with. You can't stamp an old plan, you have to reference a plan, just like the registry does, but he can make a note in the finding that it was asked, and you can defer that to their legal team and the planning board if you'd like.
Would that be appropriate rather than,
I don't think it's up to this board to require that.
Okay.
You are looking at this plan, you are modifying this variance.
yes?
And you have testimony that Moraine Ridge Road has been filed and is recorded with
Yeah.
the registry or land court, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
The experts can handle that, Laura and the land surveyor.
In the planning
The
board?
planning
And the
board.
planning board. And
What's
as Laura
before you
said,
is
there'll
before
be-
you.
There'll be
Yeah,
a
that's it.
proper chain of title, and there'll be no confusion.
Right. Okay. The hearing's closed, Austin. Sorry. The hearing's closed. Pardon me?
I was going to withdraw.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, board.
What would you like to, what are we doing now?
Vote to approve?
Yeah.
Oh, do I have a motion to approve
I'll make the
the,
motion to approve.
I'll second.
all right, seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Excuse me, can your vote be to approve the modification of the variance from a shared driveway to separate driveways and to approve the change in the building envelope? And then in your findings, you can make the buffer and stuff like that.
All
So
right,
can
let's do
you
that.
amend it to include both items?
Yeah, we're going to amend that to include both items.
Good.
Because I couldn't remember that.
Okay. Yeah. Give me a minute.
All right.
Give me a minute to write it. Did you get it? I got part of it. Okay, so approve building envelope change.
Do we make note
And
of
shared driveway.
the revised plan?
Okay, now you can make findings of, based on your determination, like it's appropriate for the building envelope to change because of the terrain, the topography, the applicant, there's testimony that the applicant will keep the natural vegetation of 25 feet between the subject property and the abutter, and anything else you'd like.
I mean, I think that covers it.
Is it a condition or a?
What you
finding
want to
that
do is a
the-
condition per plan, and that's all
Yeah.
you need to do, I
Yeah,
believe.
let's condition it per plan.
And we
And the
want-
findings are as Sari proposed.
Right, and it's less detrimental.
And we want an as-built plan submitted?
This, he did submit, what do you mean an
I mean,
as-built
there'll be
plan?
an as-built when the house is built.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
No,
just a
we
pla-
have no jurisdiction
that's
over
Just a
that.
variance on the
Right.
driveway.
You've changed the building envelope, we're
Yeah.
not talking about a
We're
house here.
just talking about a plan.
And the plan before you is a stamped plan, and that's what you're
Oh, okay, so
approving.
that plan will not change.
It will not change, and your condition, you have a condition that I put in all the time. Any deviation, alteration, or change to a plan comes before this board before said change or deviation. I put that in every decision.
All right.
Did I miss something, Laura? I know the hearing's closed, but can we ask Laura what I missed?
Sure.
Just for clarification, I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. House would want a condition that the 25-foot buffer remain in a naturally vegetated
Right.
condition
Right.
Yes, that was,
Right.
of your permit.
Okay.
That is per the plan as well.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
will set that out specifically, separate,
Okay,
and I'll give testimony to that as well.
all right. So, I forget, now, how do we close this out?
do we have conditions? As Teresa said,
Conditions is per plans,
Per
plan.
showing the 25-foot buffer of natural vegetation.
I think we should condition, well, they have to go back in front of the planning board anyways, correct?
Right, the
Sure.
planning board is
Further-
awaiting
Can't
your
put it on record
decision.
otherwise.
Right, yeah.
The planning board's awaiting your decision.
Okay, so,
Do you want to call the vote?
yeah,
Total vote.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
There you have it.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
I should make
I
a
feel
finding that
bad.
they're
I
awaiting
feel
the
bad
planning
for the
board.
town.
Yeah, plan for decision.
Cheering you, me chairing the meeting.
Can you give me a minute before your next one? please?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to hit, so we can get going?
All right.
We'll let Mr. McGrath take his plans away.
Sure.
The next file that is before the board, I have had to reschedule. It is Bogosian number 025-17 for 587 Main Street. Because there is not a quorum present for this hearing, because there's only 3 of the voting members here, which is not a quorum, I have had to reschedule that till next Thursday, June 22nd, at 6:30. So you will have open meetings, executive session, and Bogosian next Thursday.
Okay.
And you cannot make a vote on that because there is no quorum. I've just discussed it with the applicant, and we agreed to reschedule it for next Thursday.
Okay.
So you can go forward now with the other hearings.
All right, next hearing.
So this is going to be for 46 School Street, application number 030-17. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you're hereby notified that Michael A. and Elizabeth G. Nemitz, trustees of Houston, Texas, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a modification of special permit number 116-03 and number 40-05 pursuant to Sections 240-3 of the Code of Falmouth to construct a 20 by 22 detached two-car garage on subject property known as 46 School Street, Woods Hole, Mass.
Attorney Clower?
You like color and plans.
For referrals.
Sorry.
Concom, there was an order of conditions years ago. Case was in litigation for years. Comcom permit has expired, but town council is reviewing the tolling period to answer if permit may still be considered valid under the circumstances. Engineering, standard comments in the driveway is proposed with pervious materials, which we encourage. Historical, they attached a letter from April 18, 2017 on their approval. Fire department, no referral. Assessors, no referral.
No
Planning,
comments.
planning, no comments. There are 11 letters in support, and there's one letter that has comments and concerns.
Good evening, Mr. Acting Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower, and I am an attorney here in Falmouth. Tonight, I represent Michael and Elizabeth Nemitz, trustees of the Nemitz Family Living Trust.
The microphone is for the TV, but Attorney Clower, could you speak up, please?
Be happy to. I represent Michael and Elizabeth Nemitz, the trustees of the Nemitz Living Trust. They are the owners of 46 School Street and the applicants in this matter. Michael and E.B. are here with us this evening, as well as Mike McGrath from Holmes McGrath and architect Greg Jones. We're before you this evening to modify the existing special permits on the property. This property is located in Woods Hole, right on School Street, nestled against Eel Pond. It's on a lot of 25,000 square feet in the residential C zoning district. There are two active special permits on the property establishing this as a pre-existing non-conforming property. The 2003 permit, 116-03, established that there were two dwellings prior to 1959, established the non-conforming setback on the rear lot line, and allowed for the raise and reconstruction of the front duplex into a single-family dwelling. The 2005 special permit, permit 40-05, established the front yard setback of 18 feet. There was an additional special permit issued by this board in 2006, allowing for a pool to be built in the location we'll be discussing this evening. That permit was never exercised by the then owner. The Nemitzes purchased this property in 2012 and are seeking tonight to construct a 20 by 22 single-story two-car garage. This garage would have a height of 17 feet 2 inches. It comes as no surprise to anyone on this board that parking in Woods Hole is at a premium. This location, this property is no different. This garage would seek to alleviate that issue. It would make the property safer and more useful. The proposed garage is very much in character with the house. It meets the setback requirements and all the other applicable sections of the zoning bylaw. It doesn't affect any of the existing nonconformities. The existing lot coverage is 15%. This would bring us to 17.1%, well below the 20% allowed by right. This application also includes grass pavers to either side of the garage, either side of the driveway leading to the garage. These serve as both additional parking and a turnaround area in order to reduce the amounts of backing onto School Street. As someone who was on that property today and had to back out, it was difficult. So this would seek to address that. This garage requires a special permit under zoning bylaw 240-3 due to the nonconformities that we've discussed. 243C allows for pre-existing non-conforming structures and properties to be changed and altered by special permit, provided they're not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board's asked to consider the standards of 240-216, as well as whether or not any new dimensional nonconformities are created, whether views and vistas are impacted, and whether or not it reasonably conforms to the average dimensions found in the neighborhood. In this case, the proposed garage is entirely conforming to the applicable sections of the bylaw. None of the existing nonconformities are affected, as I mentioned, and the property is made safer and more useful for the applicants. There are no adverse effects of this garage. The public view over this property is limited to trees along the shore of Eel Pond, so no public view or vista is impaired, and the project meets the standards of 240-216. The planning board had some concerns in their initial referral, which were addressed in a letter dated June 7th, both in a letter from Attorney Bob Ament and in a letter from Raul Lazardi Rivera of Holmes McGrath. In response to those concerns, the proposed curb cut was reduced in size, the radii of the sidewalk was increased, and the ramps were made ADA compliant, the sidewalk ramps. And as mentioned in Raul's letter, 2 of the concerns raised by the engineering department at that time were not applicable due to the specific uses, historical uses of this property for parking requirements. This property has been vetted and approved by both the Historical Commission and the Conservation Commission previously. We believe both permits are still in effect. The Historical Commission permit has been confirmed is still in effect. Town Council Frank Duffy's still considering the Conservation Commission approval, and if it's not, we'll go back. That being said, our belief is that both permits are still in effect due to tolling. But for the existing special permit decisions on this property, this garage would be a by right matter. It conforms to the zoning bylaw in all aspects. But due to the existing special permit decisions, we are here tonight. This increases the safety and the utility of the home. It alleviates the issues of parking and addresses an obvious need and concern of the applicant. And it seems to address what appears to be the concern of some of the neighbors, as evidenced by the letter that was submitted. It is almost by definition not substantially more detrimental than what exists. Based on this information I presented to you this evening, I'd ask you to grant this request for a special permit. I, along with Mike and Greg, would be happy to address any questions you might have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if anyone has any questions for Attorney Clower.
No questions.
No question.
Did you explain tolling? I think I know what it means.
So permits have a lifespan. Most permits are good for you. A special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, for instance, is in effect for 2 years from the date it's issued, provided that there's some substantial step taken towards the exercise of those rights. However, when there's something that interferes with the ability to do that, such as litigation or an appeal, that time period would be stayed effectively. It's called tolling, and what they do is the length of time that you were delayed, you would have on the back end.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Kevin, did you run this by the building commissioner, so he does not feel that the garage is in front of the house?
We did submit a letter from Eladio Gore, the previous building commissioner, who confirmed that it was not in the front of the house. The way the front yard is determined is by the 2 front corners of the property.
Right.
So based on the location and the orientation of the house, at least Eladio's position was certainly that it was not a front yard. It was not going to be found to be in the front yard. That being said, even if it was in the front yard, we'd still be looking at the same standard of review this evening, whether or not it was.
Except it would be 50 feet back under.
But, well, it would still be under 240-3. We'd still be applying into that as under an existing nonconformity, because we wouldn't be increasing the current setback to the street.
You'd also be applying under 240-68A8. This is an accessory structure in a front yard unless, can you find that letter and read it into the record? I don't remember seeing it.
That was submitted with the June 14th letter.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Sorry, June 12th, I misspoke.
It's probably just on the back side of a letter. Is that how you did it?
It was submitted as an addendum to the June 12th letter, and it's actually addressed to David Newton from Eladio Gore.
That's August 14th, June 13th.
I have an additional copy here if you'd like me to submit that to
Skips
you.
back.
I thought I saw something when I was up there discussing this.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. If you could read that into the record, please.
Dear Mr. Newton, I have reviewed the plan of proposed garage prepared for Elizabeth G. and Michael A. Nemitz for Lot 20, number 46 School Street in Woods Hole, Falmouth, Mass., dated November 19th, 2012, last revised 8/18/14, prepared by Holmes and McGrath. This plan shows a garage to be located north of an existing house and set back 31 feet from School Street. The plans show that one corner of the house is 18 feet from the street. The proposed garage is not between the house and the street, and it will be further from the street than the two corners of the house closest to the street, the two front corners. The proposed garage, if located 31 feet from the street as shown, will not be within the front yard as defined in zoning bylaw section 240-13, yard front. Very truly yours, Eladio Gore, Building Commissioner.
What date? Did he date it?
It's not dated.
The top of the page is January 7th, 2015.
It'd be the letter.
It might be under the staple or the thing holding it.
No,
I'll
it's,
find it. We'll put it into
put
the
it in.
record.
yeah,
It's
but-
important that that be determined in this case because there has been questions of it being in the front yard. So that's why I asked for it to be read into the record.
Okay. Would anyone, we're going to open it up to public comment.
And the board doesn't have any questions
No. Do you
for
have any more
Attorney Clower?
questions, Joe?
No. I remember.
I don't have any. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Would
Anyone opposition?
Anyone in opposition?
Only thing I would like to say is
I'm sorry, you do have to come up to the podium and identify yourself, even though he introduced you. TV wants to see you.
sorry. My name is E.B. Namitz, and I'm the applicant. I just would like to note that all of the houses on School Street on the other side that face me, all the way up to the corner, have all written letters, which should be in your...
He did state that there are 11
Okay.
letters of support in the record.
Just want to make sure you read.
We just don't have time to read all of them.
Thanks. Okay. Would anyone else, sir?
He submitted a letter. It's Daniel Gomez.
I'm submitting a letter on behalf of James Clark, Clarksonville LLC, who's in butter 56 School Street. And give me a copy, I'll give you this copy when I'm done.
No, he'll just submit it to the file. Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you going to speak on behalf of this gentleman? Are you speaking on behalf of you or the gentleman?
I'm speaking on behalf of the gentleman. I'm representing him as his legal representative.
I don't have anything in the file from him saying that you have legal representation. Is this letter stated?
This letter states that I represent him, yes.
First paragraph.
It's the,
Oh, Jonathan, I called you Daniel. I apologize.
that's okay.
But nothing stating it.
Nothing by him stating it, though.
I can get you something from James Clark if you like.
Well, the hearing's going on right now,
Yeah.
so it's kind of late for that. But it's up to the board. If they'd like you to proceed, you will have, it's up to the board.
What do you guys want to do?
I would like him to proceed.
Okay.
Well, other people.
How does the board feel?
Well, without approval for representation by the person he's speaking for, I don't know what the validity would be.
Do we have proof? That's what this board usually asks for.
Okay, all right.
I do know that Jonathan did contact the office, but in the content that I didn't know he was representing anybody, otherwise I would have asked.
Okay.
He did come in and review the file.
How does the board feel?
It's going to get hung up, it's not done legally, right?
I think you have to have something that shows that you're getting permission for representation.
Can I ask you what you usually require in terms of abutters?
We need verification that, from Mr. Clark, that you are representing him.
And my word doesn't count as that, as a legal...
I'm not questioning your word.
No,
It's a
of
legal
course not.
record.
Right.
It's up to the board. I don't have any issues, per se. I mean, if you close the hearing tonight, then I cannot get anything from him, because once the file is closed, nobody can submit anything. So you can ask him, you know, he stated that he represents him if the board wants to go for that. I don't question that. It's just something with the record, that's all.
What do you guys want to
Is it
do?
going to cause a problem later on downstream? Because
That's not our problem.
Okay. All right, well, let's go.
I mean, I don't know if you want to, I
Just-
just have an issue if there's nothing from the,
He can speak in generalizations.
yeah,
I am an attorney.
I mean,
he could
I
speak
would
in
imagine-
general.
there's a
talked
code
to
of
Jim.
ethics.
There
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, proceed.
Okay. My name's Jonathan Poloni. I'm representing James Clark of Clarkson's LLC, who owns the property at 56 School Street, which is just to the north of this property. The feeling is that this property is, of course, a unique property. I think that in general, garages are a great feature. It's nice to have them. It's a good place to put your car. It's certainly a convenience and is a benefit to an individual in that way. But that shouldn't come at the expense of the community here. There's a large community that traverses this section of Woods Hole, goes along this street to go into town, a community that makes up more than just the residents that live along School Street. Just south of this property, there's the Children's School of Science that is about to get started at the beginning of July. A great number of kids go there. They walk down School Street, past the pond, they go down to the ball field. They go all over this area. It's also used as a daycare. So this is, I'm just trying to emphasize the point that this is an area that a lot of people use walking to and from town to go to their residences on Buzzards Bay Ave and beyond. This is also a scenic road. It's designated as a scenic road. Now, there are certain legal requirements for scenic roads that doesn't have anything to do with this project. But I think it's important to note that this is a scenic road. There's a value to the views along this road that have basically been undisturbed for over 100 years. This was an issue that came before the Historic District Commission with a lot of comments to that board, and I know that they eventually approved it. But in part of that proceedings, they did find that the view here was historic, and they asked for that specifically because they were not leaning towards considering any evidence of the view without some evidence of it being historic. So I included the letter from the Woods Hole Historical Museum in there that kind of details in a little more detail why it's a historic view. And they ended up, based on all the public comment, finding that it was a historic view. The reason why they didn't credit that was because they found that view to be blocked. I think your peer view here is a little bit different because you're considering this view as a neighborhood characteristic. And again, this is a view that's been there for over 100 years, and it's something that a lot of people benefit from. So it's a very, very, very unique property. And looking at this site, it's an unusual location. It's boxed in by Eel Pond on one side, so there's Conservation Commission restrictions on that side that limit it, and you've got setback requirements on the street. So it's been a challenge for this project, and we've had to redo it a lot of times to get to where they are. And maybe it's getting there, but my client seems to think that it's not there, and it's not appropriate for this site. I do want to point out that in the original special permit 116-30, there's a note in there that the original plans included a porch around the house and a garage. And for some reason, those were taken off. And now we have this project bringing that back on there. So originally, this was approved without a garage. And I think that that's significant, because just the history of this property, you know, it was a historic building. A lot of community involvement went into taking that property down and rebuilding it in 2005. People were invested in this. And then after that, you know, they decided to get a pool. They decided they wanted to have a garage here. So it's got a bit of a rocky history. There was also a hedge that has been removed. And that brings up the issue of parking here. Once that hedge came down, all of a sudden cars are parking the length of the road along there, a distance of approximately 48 feet, I believe, which is why the Historic Commission recommended 20-foot curb cut for the driveway. And they've gotten pretty close to that with 24 feet. But parking is definitely an issue here. It's an issue with safety. It's an issue with, if you've got 5 cars parked there and they're backing out, you have, like I said, a lot of people walking up and down that road that are going to be impacted by the number of cars that are parked along this property. So, assuming that you do decide this is an appropriate project for this lot, I think you should seriously consider limiting it, at the very least, to what they have with 2 dwellings, 4 parking spots, including the garage, and that there be some provision for that, because that's not the way that it's been used. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a question?
Oh, do you have a question for the
Just for
attorney?
the record, he cited the permit 116-03. The decision, it went through historical, and maybe historical changed it, but 116-03 allowed them to demolish a duplex. There was 3 dwelling units on this property. And 116-03 reduced it down to 2. And it doesn't say anything about, they had revised the plans, and it had gone through historic, it had gone through conservation. And of course, they limited it to 2 single-family dwellings on the site.
I think
But
if
it
you look
doesn't
at
require
page-
them to take off any garage or anything in the decision itself, but it may have
No.
been through different boards. If I had known we were going to question that permit, I would have brought the whole file. But that was not the Nemitz that requested that,
Is it
just
okay?
for the record.
That's correct. That was a prior owner. That was not the Nemitz's. But I was just pointing out that on page 2 of that decision, it did make a note that the Conservation Commission referral indicates that according to their plans that were revised on May 7th, 2003, to remove a proposed garage and porch. So at some point, that consideration was a factor
By a different board.
by a different board.
I have another question.
For me? or for-
Yes, for you.
Yes.
I think you submitted something from the Falmouth, you just gave it to us, Historic District Commission dated April 2nd, 2013.
Yes.
And in that hearing, it says the applicant continued for the March 5th, 2013 hearing, states a 24 by 24 foot freestanding garage will be built. And that didn't seem to cause concern with the Falmouth Historic District Commission. The facts were in front of them, I don't know.
What ended up getting approved, I mean, it got appealed a number of times. So the original application for 24 by 24 2-story, well, story and a half garage was denied, and it was modified to make it more in keeping with the existing structure on the lot. And that was denied, it was appealed, and on remand, it came back and they had modified it down to the current condition, and that was what was approved. And Kevin can correct me if I've got that wrong.
All I have in front of me, I think, is a partial of that
Right, it's the minutes, and I was including that more for the public comment regarding the views that was included there.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, if I'm reading, this is not a public vista in the definition of zoning for public vistas.
I'll let you speak to that.
On 24216, what the board reviews, its impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. That's what he's referring to. The
It's-
board's
yeah,
review
it's-
under 240-216.
Attorney Paul. Sir?
My name is Albert Fitzel, and I work for the Clark family. I've been deposed by the Nemitzes in past, so I have some familiarity with this case. And whether they get the garage or not, what I'd like to ask, and I don't know if it's you or what board or what the police do, but more than once, many times, either the Nemitzes' cars or the contractors who are working on the house block the sidewalk. I've seen 20 kids out of the Children's School of Science walk down with their nets and walk out into church or School Street to get around these cars. And it happens the winter. The Nemitz's kids come down from school, they stay there. If there's too many cars, one of them's halfway across the sidewalk. The garage, I don't think, belongs there because in the winter, when the leaves fall off, it will block the view. Right now, there's trees, so the garage there wouldn't do it, but half the year it would block the view. But my main concern is the disregard for the sidewalk. And it's a public right-of-way, and it's being abused. Thank you.
Thank you.
The board, if you do approve this, you can make a condition that while they're constructing the garage, if you approve it, that there shall be no parking on a public way, on the sidewalk. You have made conditions like that before.
Even though that would normally be the law anyways. I mean, if someone was parked
You have made
inside-
conditions like that before.
Okay.
Attorney Paul?
Okay, a few things. First, I did take some pictures when I was at the site today, and I'd like to submit them to the record. And those pictures there are the view from School Street. And Mr. Fitzel is correct that some of those trees are, do lose their leaves, but the bushes do not. The bushes do stay vegetated throughout the winter. So while there is a public view, to an extent, I suppose, from School Street, people could potentially see the water in the wintertime. That's the view we're talking about preserving. And it's worth pointing out that directly to the north is not the Clark House, but actually a vacant lot, which is vacant from the street down to the water. And that's really the source of the main view of Eel Pond from School Street. Mrs. Nemitz was correct in stating that there were a number of letters of support, as was mentioned, and she was correct in stating that what we were looking at actually is really the four neighbors across the street, all of whom would potentially have any views are in favor of this. Now, that's not what we're protecting here, but I think it's interesting to note that those neighbors are all in support. Attorney Poloni was correct in that this project has gone through a lot of iterations. There have been a lot of changes. And in fact, the proposed garage was reduced in scope from 24 by 24 to 20 by 22, which is a pretty significant decrease when you look at the gross square footage of the proposed garage. As to why a porch or garage might have been taken off the existing plans, it's speculation. I don't know. I don't think anyone can make a very valid claim as to why it was removed. But we are allowed to modify this by special permit. A special permit can be modified, and we're here before you today in order to do so. And I think it is a highly approvable project based on the things I went over. He mentioned the community involvement, and they may have been involved, but the community doesn't own the property. The Nemitzes do. And I think that what the Nemitzes are proposing seems to address a lot of the community concerns. They're concerned about overparking. We're creating new parking. We're creating a driveway that's going to get the cars that's going to allow the cars to pull more into the property. It's going to allow them parking stalls. It's going to prevent overhang of cars onto the lot. and onto the sidewalk. And it's worth noting that there are a number of people who park in this area outside of the Namitzes. The science school is down the street. People come and pick up their children. And when they pick up their children, they'll line up from School Street all the way down to Millfield Street. It's a very busy area. Not all of these complaints, so to speak, are the result of the actions of the Namitzes. Sari also pointed out that this property was purchased in 2012. A lot of what we're talking about was dealt with by the previous owner. I think that really what's happening here is the concerns are being addressed. I think the parking issue, in as much as there is one, is being addressed by this proposal. And I think that the board should approve this based on the information that's been submitted this evening.
Thank you. Would the board like to have any discussion?
You have to close the hearing?
Should we close the hearing?
It's up to you. If you want to have a discussion before you close it, or you can close it and have a discussion, I
Chairman,
think.
if I may, if I could ask that the board have, because there's only 4 members this evening, if I could ask that the board does have discussion prior to closing the hearing, it would be greatly appreciated.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Bob?
It seems like the addition of the garage would actually help the, the parking, the traffic issue.
Yeah.
I can understand the comments about anyone parking on the sidewalk, but, we do have the ability to say that if it's during construction, that no vehicles be parked on the public way, which makes sense. If there were any other issues in the future on the public way, that would, I assume, would be a police issue or a zoning issue. I did do the site visit, so and I am familiar with the vistas in the winter. There is a lot of hedge work, and a lot of trees there now, so I think any effect is just going to be on some of the winter views, and I don't seem that it's going to be greatly, affected.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the same way, the garage being there is a place to park 2 more cars and get them off the street. The day I went there, Monday or whatever day it was, the landscapers were there and they were parked on the sidewalk, but that can be addressed. So I think I'd be for it,
Sure. Jerry?
Nothing else to add on. I'm in favor of this, based on information presented to us.
I'm in favor of this as well. I mean, this is so modest. It's had its approvals from the Historic Commission. I mean, it's a 20 by 22 garage. Tastefully done, approved. It's going to eliminate parking problems. I'm absolutely fine with it. I think it's a nice proposal. Okay.
The board can go forward with what they want to do.
What would the board like to do? Close?
I'd recommend closing.
Okay.
Second?
Motion to close, seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the hearing's closed. How would the board like to proceed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Approve it and come up with the findings.
Okay.
Condition.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Jerry.
Findings.
Findings, meets the, meets the,
I think it's important that you put the Eladio Gore,
right.
note the Eladio Gore, note the historical approval, and referral from conservation saying that it's making a determination by town council if it meets the tolling period. I would also make a finding that, based on site visits, that there was people parked on the sidewalk, and make a finding that it's up to the applicant to ask their landscaper not to park on the sidewalk in the future,
Okay.
to help.
We
And
can
if you-
incorporate all that into the findings, I like that.
And under 24216, there is an impact on the view and vista, but there's been no view easement submitted, and the historical approved it under the historic issue with the view. They discussed it at great length. Everything else under 24216, you've already discussed adequacy of the site in terms of size for the proposed use. It's still in compliance with the setbacks, lot coverage, suitability of the site. I think you've determined that by stating it's going to offer more parking
Should we put on
in the
record?
garage and outside of the garage.
That its proposal is 17.1% lot coverage.
I'll
And the
just,
max-
I'll just put that
normally that
it's
gets
in
included.
compliance with 240-69A.
And do we will need an as-built for the garage to make sure that the setback of the 31 feet
Oh, as per plans.
as proposed?
That's up to you. I mean, that's one reason why I asked Eladio's letter to be read into the record, because the setback is 18 for the house. That's up to you. The building department does require as-bills, but if you'd
Okay.
like a copy for me to verify that it is 31 feet, that's fine. You can make that one of your conditions. But on the findings, I think it's all, I'll put the 240-3, it's not any more
Yeah,
detrimental.
sounds good.
Now, if the building department's going to have as-built, I don't
Yeah,
know.
they'll require one anyway.
It's his determination.
Okay.
You want to do conditions?
Conditions, per plan.
Who would like the drawings?
I would recommend you make the condition
During
that under
construction,
construction, there shall be no
parking in the public
parking
way.
on the street by any, excuse me, contractors, laborers.
All right, let's do that. We'll make
Sorry.
that condition. No parking on the street for the tradesmen.
I think we should see the as-built plan only because there's been so many issues.
Okay.
It seems over the years, just at least administratively, you could
Okay. I
check
mean,
the setbacks.
well, you- They're preparing them anyway, so.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the typical ones, any change, deviation, the ones that I usually do.
You think?
Is that, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
that's fine.
And I'll also make a finding that, oh, I already brought that up on Conservation Commission.
Okay,
You can call the vote.
let's call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
This is all cash.
Huh?
I think this is duplicate.
No, this is, yeah.
This is
Yeah,
duplicate.
that was part of it, I think.
It's already submitted.
I think this is all duplicative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Came to the office and told us he was representing.
It is, it is.
The other verification date can speak on his
Oh, is that what you
behalf.
sorted out? Because I'm thinking, what do you do with all this extra?
All right, let's see. Moving right along, the next one is
03117.
03117.
Good evening.
We're just going to read this.
Wait until it's read into the record, Jill, and referrals are done.
Okay, application number 031-17, being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Neubauer Realty LLC of Falmouth, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a modification of a special permit 91-13 pursuant to Section 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to construct an addition to the rear structure, creating new office space on subject property known as 15 Depot Ave, Falmouth, Mass. For referrals, engineering standard comment, also to contain stormwater on property. Fire department, no comment. Historical, note that it was before the Historical Commission on 5/2/17. Assessors, no comment. And planning, no comment. And there is one letter of support in the file.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jill Neubauer. I own the property at 15 Depot Avenue, and additionally, my architecture office is a tenant in the rear building of this property. I'm here this evening seeking your support to remove the overhanging deck and stairway on the front building in exchange for building an addition on the rear of the barn building. The structures were built in the 1800s, and a building permit in 1972, as well as an aerial map in 1979 verified the existence of these structures, allowing for the current lot coverage, which will actually be slightly reduced if this goes forward. The deck and stair were built in the 1970s as the sole access and egress apartment that was built above the bookstore. And we no longer have a need for that access or egress. That deck is in need of structural repairs, and for functional reasons that I don't need it, and for aesthetic reasons, I would like to remove it and use that 267 square feet of lot coverage in exchange for a one-story addition on the back of the barn. The original application showed the addition slightly larger, and actually in the last few days, looking at the stakes on the site for your board, we decided to reduce it just a little bit to pull it back to preserve more of the garden. And so what was resubmitted today with Tom Bunker's BSS's plan and ours is just a slight reduction, which takes the proposed structure from 267 square feet to 247 square feet. So you have about 19 square feet of less lot coverage, slightly reducing our lot coverage. The addition meets all setbacks. It does not impact the parking. I have a letter from two neighbors. I have an additional letter of support from my direct abutter. And I have a letter from a neighboring business, which is less than 200 feet from my office, communicating that I would be able to secure a lease for parking if the board deemed that essential, which I'm hoping the board does not. That's it. So that's what I'm looking for support for, is really just to swap the deck square footage for the addition.
Excellent, thanks. Is there anyone?
Board discussion?
Oh,
Or
board discussion.
Board
Any
questions?
discussion?
Board questions?
Board questions?
No question.
What are the current parking spaces on site?
I have, the lot comes to here. I have these two here. We have an additional one here that we're using. This would be the one that would be freed up in exchange for the 250 square feet. This one was never called out before. What we used for the last addition was this count of 6 and 2.
6 and 2.
The two spots that are where you just pointed to, when I was there the other day, there was one white car, and it was there was no room for another car there.
Sometimes people who are visiting don't understand that that's two spaces, and so they casually drive in the middle.
Oh.
The Snowman property here, which I have a letter of support from along with Hilton and Bishop, they, we have a
Jill,
nice-
try to stick to the microphone. Thank you.
I have a nice relationship with Snowman, so when guests from either business come, and if they happen to park sort of in the middle, we just park near the hedge and make it work till that guest leaves. And then, so I have 2 designated spaces.
Oh. Is there any plan to mark them?
Actually, we've just made new clear signs
Oh, okay.
that we're going to put up for those 2 spaces to help people know that those are mine and the
Yeah.
attorneys are up front.
Okay. So I am.
So there's 8 total spaces
total.
on site.
Jerry?
No questions.
Okay. Is there any public comment in favor or in opposition? Okay. How would the board like to proceed?
Close the hearing?
Close the hearing.
I would
right?
discuss first
I,
because of the parking.
yeah, does anyone want to discuss it? General comments? No?
How long is the lease for, Jill? The lease for the agreement for the 4 parking spaces?
Indefinite. He
Okay.
didn't put a time constraint on it.
Okay.
And I have not secured that. I just have a letter that if the board deemed that that was essential, then I can secure that.
Now, can I ask a question? You had stated that you don't need any off-site parking, that everything is accommodated on-site. Is that correct?
I didn't state that. What is...
I'm sorry, in a discussion that you and I had, that you
Yeah.
didn't use the off-site parking that you had
So-
before.
Yes, so in 2014, we built the shed roof addition that we're intending to expand. At the time, the zoning board asked me to secure, I had already secured, 4 parking spaces with Attorney Kenny down by the bus station. And in truth, he benefited financially from that, and we never used the parking spaces once. And we park on the street, and in the high season, when we need to, we park down at the public parking lot beyond the Enterprise Building, which is just a short walk. And so I'm hoping that the board, even though I cannot accommodate all the parking for the staff on site, that we pleasantly and successfully use public parking and not have to secure parking and pay someone else that we don't ever use.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone have any thoughts on that? I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it. It's up to her, the police or employees,
Yeah,
to
right.
make sure. If
Exactly.
they don't park where the public areas
Yeah.
can impact your business.
Right.
So,
And they've been
Thank you.
volunteering, they've been doing it now anyways,
Yeah.
on a voluntary basis, and it seems to be working, so.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion
How
to
would-
close?
Motion to close?
Make the motion to close.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the hearing's closed. What would the board like to do? Motion, make a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
I have a motion to approve.
Right, second.
I got a second from Ed.
Who
Findings?
made that motion?
Findings?
Are you looking to me?
Yeah.
Yes, you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think definitely you want to get the testimony in by Jill, which is why I asked the question, that she did exercise the lease, but they didn't use it, that there is public parking when it's necessary, and that her employees are the ones that use it. I realize it is a tight site, but, and again, you know, she's existed there for a while.
Sure.
So I think it's
Yeah.
important to get that finding in there.
Okay,
That's fair, yeah.
we'll make sure that gets in there.
And she also stated there's going to be signs that being made to identify the.
For those 2 spots.
For 2
that-
spaces.
Yes. Also make a finding that it's less non-conforming in the lot coverage slightly.
Right.
It's a slight improvement to the lot coverage. And it
Slight
did free up a
improvement.
parking space, did it not? It did.
Yeah, it did.
It freed up a parking space.
Okay.
Under 240-3, it's not more detrimental. There's an increase in office space, but it doesn't increase, which we didn't ask, but I do believe it does not increase the staff in a conversation that I had. So we'll get that finding in there.
Okay. Those
And
findings-
242-16, adequacy, it's based on those findings.
That sounds great. Let's incorporate all those in there, and conditions
Build it like the drawings.
per plan. Yeah.
Mark the parking spaces.
Can we make the condition staff park? the
Well, I think we made a finding that she's going
To use
to label those 2 parking spaces,
Okay.
but, you know, that's a judgment call for her. I don't know if you want to condition that. She said she has made the signs.
Yeah.
So,
Bigger word.
No, she made the
Yeah.
signs, that's fine.
so per plans,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and was there anything else?
No, not that I can think of. All right. We'll call,
That's it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations.
Does that mean we have to turn someone else down tonight? So,
Okay, moving on to the final hearing of the night,
Pass them down.
32-17, 8 Walden Ave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Greg, we're going to read the record, read it into the record first.
Okay, application number 032-17, being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Lori A. and David H. Benton Jr. of Norfolk, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3C, 240-68, and 240-69 of the Code of Falmouth to raise the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and detached garage and reconstruct with attached garage on subject property known as 8 Walden Ave, Falmouth, Mass. Referrals.
Engineering.
Engineering, it says, see attached additional comments.
Find that. Just read the,
Usually in red, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's standard comments.
Okay, go to the next.
Concom, project is outside Concom jurisdiction, but extremely important that stormwater contained on the property discharged down road may contribute to runoff into wetlands near the casino. Fire department, no comment. Assessors, it includes lots 1, 2, and 3. Planning, no comment. And there's no,
I don't believe we received any
no,
letters.
and there's no letters in support or opposition.
Board of Health, make any comment?
No, Board of
No.
Health hasn't sent a referral in a long time.
That's it.
Greg?
Great, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Jones. I'm an architect representing Lori and Dave Benton, owners of 8 Walden Avenue, and Mr. and Mrs. Benton are here, along with Mike Briselli, the engineer on the project, all of whom would be happy to answer any questions you might have. As noted, we're looking to demolish an existing structure and replace it with a new structure. We have 2 areas of nonconformance, the front yard setback. The current house sits 6.6 feet back from the front property line. The proposed new structure, we're looking to maintain that same 6.6-foot setback from the front property line, excuse me. The second area of nonconformance, which is Section 240-69, dealing with lot coverage. This is a residential C zone. We're allowed up to 20% lot coverage as of right. There is a special provision in the bylaws that allow via special permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals for up to 25% lot coverage if the board feels that's appropriate. In fact, the current house and garage cover 22% of the lot. Our new proposed house and garage, we worked very hard to maintain that 22% lot coverage. So we're not seeking to increase the lot coverage of what's there now. In fact, we're going to maintain the 22% lot coverage. A couple things of benefit should you approve this project. You'll notice on the existing site plan, there's a number of areas of nonconformance for the current structure. The rear yard setback is nonconforming. The side yard setback for the garage is nonconforming. There's also a shed on the property whose setbacks are nonconforming. The new structure, we've laid it out such that the rear setbacks and the side setbacks will in fact now be conforming with the new structure. We're going to remove the shed completely, so that's another area of nonconformance that we're eliminating. And I think one of the larger issues that we will address as part of this project beyond the setback nonconformances is the current septic system. I did meet with Mr. Carrigan, the health agent, to talk about the project. The current septic system on the site is designed for a 4-bedroom structure, when in fact the current house is a 7-bedroom structure. So the current septic system is non-compliant. as part of this project, Mr. Briselli's designed a fully compliant 5-bedroom septic system that's compliant with Title V. In meeting with Mr. Carrigan, we walked him through the plans, and he determined that the room above the garage that I've called sort of the bonus room, he was counting that as a 5th bedroom. So in fact, we're happy to agree with him, and we designed the septic system to be 5 bedrooms. Generally, when a room like that is not private, they've been determined not to be a bedroom, but Mr. Carrigan feels it's private enough that it could be a bedroom, so we have the capacity on the site to do a 5-bedroom septic system with reserve area, so that's what's being proposed. The new structure is, again, 1.5 stories. If you've seen the structure that's there, it's a quaint, lovely structure. We've tried to design the new structure so that it maintains some of the same lines, the steeply pitched roofs, the dormers. It's also 1.5 stories like the current structure. So we've worked fairly hard to make it blend with the neighborhood, and I think we've achieved that. Some of the information I've submitted is a documentation of the lot coverage of the various structures directly abutting 8 Walden Avenue. And you'll notice with our new structure, we maintain the 22% lot coverage. On the average, the lot coverage for this neighborhood, including all of Walden Ave and a number of the homes on the back street, Quinnapoxet Ave, we're looking at an average of 23% lot coverage. So we're right in that ballpark at 22%. Some lot coverages are as high as 47%. We've also submitted this evening a bulk density calculation to get a sense of just what this new structure is mass-wise in relation to its neighboring structures. So via the calculations I've done, with our new house and garage, our bulk represents about 35%. The directly abutting properties are as high as 53 and 60%. There's a 45% and a 58%. So we're about the lowest sort of dense bulk property on Walden Avenue, even after the new work is done. And that's primarily by virtue, this originally had been 3 building lots way back when. So it's one of the larger properties on Walden Ave. So I think on the whole, the one piece that we fall short on is the front yard setback. And again, we're not making it any worse than what it is now. And if you've been up and down Walden Avenue, all the houses on this side of Walden Ave are at least as close to the property line, if not closer, than the 8 Walden Ave of my clients. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We have some drawings here that I can walk you through if you like. But and as I say, Mr. Briselli and the Bentons are here as well if you have any questions of them. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Greg?
Yeah, just for clarification from the existing house plan, it seems that the existing house is 6, but you said 7?
I want to say 7. I could be wrong. I thought it was 7
as well.
What am I missing?
But they're only asking for 4, and 5 is the bonus.
Well, they're asking for
room.
5. But my question was
Well, the
because
septic is 5, they show 4 bedrooms,
Because-
and the Board of Health has designated the room above.
maybe it's because there's nothing on there.
6, 7. I don't know where you get your counting.
What do you count? You're counting the
Oh, my
utility room?
God.
No, what are you counting right here? First floor?
How did I count that?
There's one here, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Something
Oh, did
labeled
I
wrong?
count?
I think you counted the bathroom, but maybe that's
Oh,
labeled wrong.
maybe I did. Maybe I did.
Could that be mislabeled?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh.
I'm only following that.
I'll go with 6 if it's...
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out clarification, because in the current house that exists, I know you're doing a raise and reconstruct, the current septic on the house that exists is 4-4?
Is 4-bedroom, that's correct. Mr. Garrigan has information attesting to that.
Okay. That's all I have.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
I don't either.
I don't see 7.
this?
There's
That's
no
existing.
septic, there's no septic plan, though.
I'm assuming we're going to get something from the Board of Health.
We don't get anything from the Board of Health lately. They're very busy, but as you well know, the Board of Health does have to review and sign off before building
Yeah, that's
permits
what I'm
issue.
saying, so.
And we'd be
issue
happy
of
to submit
bedrooms
the
is-
stamped septic plan.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think we need that. If you have it, Michael, that'd be great. Because that has the GPD on it.
Did we close the hearing?
Not yet.
Nope.
The public
I
hasn't
noticed that
spoken.
the basement will be unoccupied.
Correct. Yeah, it's
Does it have
basically
heat
for...
or anything? Is it just-
Say again?
Does it have heat or?
It won't have heat, it'll have the electric room and a mechanical room and storage.
So it's unfinished.
Unfinished.
So that needs to be made
Right.
part of the record.
How many spaces will you have for parking?
There's 2 in the garage, and the driveway itself is 38 feet long by 22 feet wide, so
Okay,
there's
so the
probably
garage is-
4 more on the driveway. And one of the things that the comments, referrals talked about, no runoff on the street. So we will provide on-site storm drainage. We haven't determined yet if it's going to be via gutters or via a French drain into dry wells. So we will provide on-site rainwater control. We got that referral too, so we're happy to do that.
Any other questions?
No, that's it.
No? I don't have any. Is public comment, is there anyone here to speak in favor?
Tony Zahariadis, 12 Walden. I'm actually a direct abutter to this property. I'd like to apologize to Dave and Laurie that my house is going to be next to that. Sorry. But, I'd like to speak in favor of it. I'm very excited for them and happy that they're doing this. And whatever it is I could say positively towards it, I would like to, so the board could give them a positive answer. And I just wish that the board approves it and let these good people build this house and move down to the place that they love. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Caldera. I'm at 11 Quinnapoxet Ave. I also have a house at 24 Forest Ave, which is at the far end of that long section. I'm all in favor of it. I think they'd be great neighbors. I think it'll look really nice. So I'm in favor. Hope you'd approve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, what was your last name?
Caldera.
Caldera?
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. How would we like to proceed? Any discussion?
Close it.
Close the
Okay.
hearing.
Motion to close?
Make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing's closed. I think it's beautiful.
It's a nice plan. It'll be a good addition to the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any questions. Anyone have anyone want to discuss anything further? or-
Well, I think there's some findings.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'll make the finding about the testimony with the drainage, and it
Yes.
should be installed as appropriate according to the engineer's estimation or need, he feels as necessary. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's the town
Testimony
engineer.
that it was a 6-bedroom, now a 4-bedroom, with the Board of Health designating the room over the garage as a bedroom. There's a 5-bedroom septic system approved. I didn't check the GPD on that, but it's probably 55 or more, 5,500? So, 550. Bleh, I'm okay.
I guess I'm confused.
Coffee, huh?
Is it 5 with the bonus room?
Yeah, I know.
Or 4 without the bonus room?
I'm sorry?
Are we approving 5 with the bonus room?
He submitted a plan showing a 5-bedroom septic. The Board of Health designated the room above the garage
As a possible.
as a bedroom.
As a possible bedroom?
That makes it 5.
Yeah.
So,
Five total.
so I would just condition no more than 5 bedrooms? It's
That's
not
what I
on,
was-
it's not on sewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
She also eliminated some of the nonconformities.
Right.
They're removing the shed, they're maintaining the lot coverage.
Should I make a motion?
And the lot
basement
coverage,
is-
the lot coverage is the same?
Yep.
So lot coverage setbacks,
They're removing the shed?
yes, I got that.
Basement will be unfinished and not habitable?
Basement unfinished.
The rear and side yard will now conform.
Yes.
I don't think we have a motion to approve.
The rear
yet,
and
do we?
side yard, he said would now conform.
Did we make a motion
Right,
to
I did.
approve?
Yeah.
Did we make?
Not yet.
No, okay.
Well,
You
remember
were
those.
discussing it, from what I understand.
But remember all that for the findings.
Right.
Yep, those are all the findings, guys. Now you can vote.
A motion to approve?
I gotta do some conditions, right?
Second?
Second.
Okay. Conditions per plan?
Yep, no more than
No more
5
than 5
bedrooms.
bedrooms.
Yep.
The
Is it given subject
The,
to Board of Health?
mitigation for any stormwater will be determined by the project engineer.
Kept on site.
And do you want a revised plan showing it, if there is some?
Yes. They're gonna keep the stormwater on the site.
Right, that's a
Right.
finding.
Yeah.
And that can be part of the condition.
Yes.
But to maintain it on site is, do
Yes.
you want that condition? That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Yes.
The board. And that revised plan, I should probably put on there prior to the issuance of a building permit? Or, no, let's make it prior to final inspection, how's that?
Yep.
That's,
Anything else?
Do we have to list removal of shed, or just because it's on the plans already?
they said the testimony was they're gonna remove the shed.
You can condition that
Yeah, just because it's part of the lot coverage.
to be removed and not replaced, and any,
Well, is
how do
that-
we usually do it? Wait a minute, let me think. No other accessory structures unless approved by the ZBA, because they're already at 22% lot coverage.
So if they wanted to put a shed in?
They'd have to
down the
come
road,
back.
They'd have to come back. Okay. But they got a 2-car garage. That's premium in the Heights. You could rent one up.
That's all I can think of. How's the board doing?
Fine.
You're doing great.
Ready to,
Does
ready to call the vote?
unfinished basement, does that have to be listed again, or no?
We put that in the findings.
It's in the findings, so it's okay. Call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations, enjoy your new home.
We never get
Brad, are
invited
you
to the house
building it?
opening,
No.
do we?
Brad building it? Okay, how about the minutes?
This is like extra stuff, we can throw these out?
Vote to
No,
accept-
we're still in session. We're still in session,
We're still in
guys.
session, folks.
All right, here's the minutes for the board's approval. There's 2 sets.
All right, has everyone read the minutes for June 5th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of June
I'll
5th?
make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Paul, would you sign and, right here, and put acting chair?
Yep, right here.
please? Yes. And then the next set, the same.
And the next, okay. Has everyone read the minutes of June 1st?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes
Make
of
the
June
motion to
1st?
approve the minutes of June 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'm
sorry, who did the second for the June 1st minutes?
Take your pick.
Was it?
What was it?
Take your pick. I think we all did it at the same time, so pick it.
And that is all that I have.
All
I
right.
don't know if you guys, we don't want to discuss the procedural rules because we don't have a full board, of course.
But we could.
And I don't know if the board has any updates or comments.
No updates or comments. I went to 40B here, training, I think. Ed also attended.
What, did you go to the 40B, or? I know Ed did.
Yeah, I went on Wednesday, Ed went on Thursday.
Okay.
So the board was there both days.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Well, Rob tried to go, but it
I
was
got
all booked.
waitlisted.
Oh, you should have told me.
Why, you
Well,
don't wanna
it was
go?
booked.
No,
Well, I
I got
wanted to go, but it
waitlisted.
was, you might have got more out of it than I.
Was there anything new that you kind of picked up that?
Everything
was
was
interesting?
new. I wasn't sure what I understood.
The notebook's in the office.
Oh, I'll take a look at the notebook.
Ed brought me the notebook, and we also got the link, but that link disappears after a certain amount of time, so
I'll check it out then.
You could forward the link to him, right?
the link will disappear shortly. That's why I'm saying I can forward the link, but you've got to look at it.
Look at it now
because
before it
goes away.
disappears.
In the-
So, we do have a hearing next Thursday. It's very important that all the regular voting members be there, and the voting members on Bogosian be
Will
there,
we-
because we've already had to reschedule Bogosian tonight.
Will we get the draft from our attorney?
I'm hoping so. I'm waiting for it.
That will list all our concerns that we've
I'm waiting for it.
Do I have to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes, somebody has to
Motion
make
to
a
adjourn.
motion.
Boom.